everybody. Today I'm going to be announcing a little personal project that you are free to follow along with if you would like, that I'm going to be calling Realms Reads. Titled so because it will focus on reading a bunch of the Forgotten Realms books, meaning books set in the Forgotten Realms D&D universe. There are a lot of them. I will not be reading all of them. Basically, I went through every Forgotten Realms book ever made that I could find on the internet, and made a list of all the series and standalones that I was personally interested. It still ended up coming to be about 200 books. Yeah, so this project is going to be kind of long running. It won't be the only thing that I'm going to be reading on my channel because that would basically consume this channel. And I'm going to go over in a second kind of how I'm going to structure this personal project. I've been thinking about doing this for a while now. It's kind of crossed my mind a couple times over the past couple years, and then the last couple weeks I started like really seriously being like, I want to do this. I want to read as many of the Forgotten Realms books as possible. And I kind of started on like the planning, like, well, I like organizing and kind of planning stuff. So how do I want to kind of structure this as a personal project? So I'm here today to kind of talk about what I'm going to be doing, how I'm going to be doing it, and if you would like to follow along and read some or all of the books that I am going to be reading, you can, and kind of know where I'm at, and you can share your thoughts with me as we go. Or if you're just interested in checking out some of the books in the Forgotten Realms series, I know a lot of them are older, so I tend to not see as many like older books featured on YouTube, or if you find channels that do, you kind of have to search, and they tend to be smaller channels. So this will also be your chance to kind of get somebody's perspective on these books. So I will be starting this personal project in September. So kind of said it's a lot of books, so it's going to be something that's going to be ongoing for a while. But I will be starting with September. So story time, I kind of went back and forth when I was planning this as to whether or not I wanted to do chronological order or publication order. So I was like, you know what? I'm really indecisive about this. I'm going to ask the people of the internet. So I posted on Goodreads, in specific groups. I posted on my personal Facebook page and just was like, hey friends, who are interested in this, because I have a lot of friends who play tabletop games and also like to read and stuff like that. And I was like, surely I know I have friends who read some of these novels. So, and the overarching consensus, it was surprising, everyone else was just as torn as I was. I also asked in another Facebook group. I'm in the Weeby Bookin' Facebook group, and I asked them there. Like, everybody was like super torn. They were like, well, I can see how you do it this way, and that's really cool, but it's also cool to do it this way. Like, everybody was like super back and forth. I did end up making a list of chronological order. It took me several hours, but I find tedious tasks and organizational stuff like that kind of soothing and relaxing. I've kind of, working with my therapist, I've found that it kind of comes from my combination of OCD and anxiety. I like tediously organizing things. It makes me feel calm, and also tedious repetitive tasks like constantly looking up dates can be helpful with anxiety, because you can kind of check out but still be engaged. So I didn't really mind, but it did take me a few hours. But I came up with a whole list of all the books at the time that were in that. And then I had one particular friend comment on my Facebook, and kind of what he said was that he was in favor of publication order. And the reason he is in favor of publication order was he was talking about how it would be neat to kind of see how the series and the tone and the books changed as more and more authors got into writing books in this world, and also through the years how things kind of change and evolve, especially when new editions of D&D came out. The books do kind of change because they try to like make sure that the characters in the book fit kind of with the edition. So whenever a new D&D edition would come out, the books themselves would actually change, even though they're fiction novels just kind of set in that world, which I thought was really neat. And that was the most like kind of serious, well thought out, not, oh, that's actually a really crazy question, answer that I got, and it really got me to thinking. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to make a list of what it would be. I already have my chronological order list. I'm going to make a list that's like what it would be in, publication order, and kind of see how many time jumps and stuff there are, because one of the reasons I'd consider chronological order is I kind of wanted to, sometimes it's hard for me to like make sure I've got stuff placed in the correct like chronological order and keeping it straight in my head. It was kind of me being lazy, I guess, about that. So once I started putting them together in publication order, I found that there's not really, it's actually pretty steady. Like they're very similar. There's not a lot of crazy jumping around. And so I have decided, all that to say, I am going to be doing them in publication order. And that is also going to kind of be, I'm glad I did that, because, you know, it's going to kind of be how I format my videos I'm going to do as part of this project, because I do want to incorporate it into my channel. So when I made the list, I blocked it, meaning that I did like a little line and then the year, so that I could tell which sets of books are set in the year. And I am going to do videos for each year block at a time. I'll make videos first, whenever I get to a new year block, I'll make a video that's kind of my next year block announcement, and I'll be like, say I'm up to 1990. I'll be like, okay, these are the books for 1990. So this is going to be the books. I'll kind of talk about my predictions, how I think I'll feel about them. I'll try to do my research and look up if like there were any changes to the game itself at that time. I'll kind of, because there is some variance in how many books might have been published in a particular year, I will be talking about kind of my personal goal for getting them finished. Like I said, these won't be the only books that I'm reading until I am done. They will be fit in with my other reading. So I will kind of talk about, based on how many books were published in that year block, kind of my time frame goal. So that way too, if you want to like read along with me or read books, even if you maybe read some of the books that I chose to skip over in that year block, you can kind of be like, oh, this is when this year block is happening. And after I finish all the books in the year block, because, you know, during like wrap-ups and TBR videos that I'll continue to do, I'll kind of talk about them briefly. You know, I'll mention them obviously if I finish them, or if I'm planning on reading them a particular month. I'll do a wrap-up and analysis of each year block. Obviously the first one is just going to be the very first one, but after that, something I'll kind of want to do is compare various years to other years, kind of see how the structure of the books change, how characters evolve. I'll talk about, you know, favorite characters, favorite storylines. A lot of the books are trilogies or series or things like that. There actually aren't a ton of standalones. So if I read a book and I'm like, I actually don't want to read this series, I'll talk about if I'm going to choose to drop a series or not from future year blocks. Though I probably won't do that too often, because I did kind of screen the books ahead of time, so hopefully I won't have too many of those. And just kind of talk about, I'll go over each book, kind of give my thoughts and feelings, and dedicate, even if I talked about them in previous videos, I'll kind of dedicate a little chunk of time to each book. And yeah, so it'll just kind of be like my wrap up of that year block, and kind of what I thought, how everything's progressing, and comparisons from previous years, and if there was an addition change, kind of like how I felt like that impacted the books and what I think about that. So that's kind of my video plan, I guess you say. It's mostly going to be kind of like announcements of the year blocks and kind of my pre-going into it thoughts, and then also like wrap-ups of the year blocks. And in addition, obviously you're going to hear me, since I'll be reading them, you'll be hearing me talk about the books between then. And I would definitely encourage, if you do decide to read some of these books along with me, to comment your thoughts along the way. So in this announcement video, I'm also going to go ahead and also make this my announcement for the first year block, which was in 1987, so before I was born. This book is older than me. So there was actually only one book published in 1987, so that's why I'm just going to go ahead and put it in here. And that is the Darkwalker on Moonshae by Douglas Niles. So this is the first novel ever published in the Forgotten Realms series. This is like a reprint edition, and this edition that I particularly have says this beautifully recovered edition now includes an introduction from New York Times bestselling author R.A. Salvatore. If you've read any of the Dritz books, then, which are going to be included in this, by the way, because I've read Homeland about 3 times, and I want to finally get around to, and I'm almost done with Exile, and I really want to get to actually finishing the rest of the series because I really like it. I think I mentioned before, I don't normally reread books, and I think I reread Homeland. I've read Homeland 3 or 4 times. But so the author of that series, he did an introduction. So this was the very first book published in the Forgotten Realms kind of overarching universe series. And it is part of a trilogy. So I believe both of the other books in the trilogy are in the next year block. I believe they're both in the 1988 block. That block this is the only block that's going to only have 1 book. All the other blocks have at least 3, I believe, when I looked at it. So both of the books in the rest of the trilogy will be in the next year block. But for now, this will be the very first. The synopsis is: a cursed denizen of an ancient era again walks the island of the Moonshaes, and the sacred realm of the goddess Earth Mother shudders under its vile onslaughts. A bold but reckless prince, a beautiful young druidess, and their companions, both magical and mortal, do their best to protect their cherished homeland, if only their best was good enough. So I'm actually really excited about this because it sounds really dark, and I like really dark books. Some of the other Forgotten Realms books that I've already read are ones that occur in the Underdark, focusing on the Drow, and also I'm reading I had read another book, or read partially another book somebody had lent me that focused on a necromancer. So I like dark fantasy, and this one definitely, that little last line, if only their best was good enough. It sounds like it's going to be kind of a darker fantasy, and that makes me kind of excited. So another thing that I will be covering in my announcement videos, whenever I posted around kind of looking for opinions on what other people kind of thought about chronological versus publication, one of the comments I got was somebody that was like, oh, this project sounds really cool. I'd kind of like to do something similar, maybe not quite as many, but where do you find all these books? So I kind of want to address that in my video, because I know, as someone who gets a lot of used books, I buy mostly used books, and likes to kind of read older books, it is hard sometimes to find stuff. So when I do my announcement videos, I'm going to either talk about where I have already obtained the book, or where I plan to obtain the book, or kind of some options as to where you can get the book if you want it. So this book, I grabbed it and the other 2 in the series from one of my local bookstores. So find your local used bookstore is my first advice. It's going to be the easiest, quickest, and cheapest way to get a book that is like an older book. The particular used bookstore I go to, I have bought a bunch of my Forgotten Realms books because for some reason they always have them priced like super cheap, and they'll have just like a bunch of them at a time. So I bought all 3 of them at once, and they were all less than $3 each. And there is nothing wrong with this book either. Like, there's no damage to it. I mean, obviously you can see it's a little yellowed at the edges, and it's used and it's old, but like there's no like dents or anything in it. There's like an old sticker, and I think it was $2.50. So for some reason they just priced their Forgotten Realms books like super cheap. It's the one I go to, it is a chain used bookstore, but it's called Second and Charles. There's also like 2 locally owned ones that I'll go grab books at, and they usually also have them pretty cheap. Like this chain one is usually the cheapest, but there's 2 just like local small locally owned used bookstores, and when they have these books, they're usually around $5 or less. So that's my first suggestion. I did go ahead and look up this book. I know thrift book, if you want to go for online retailers, like say you can't find this at here, or you can't find it at your local library, because that is also the next place. If you don't actually want to buy all the books, go check out your local library. They probably have it. It doesn't hurt to look. And I'm always one to say support your local library. Thrift Books, which I know is a website people like to use. I haven't personally ordered from them before, but I've looked books up before and heard really good things about them. They have it for about $3 to $4. I don't know if it's the exact same cover, but they have this book for $3 or $4. You can buy it on the Kindle version for $7.99, and then I saw that they had the mass market paperback for like $5 from various sellers, not from Amazon directly, but like from sellers on Amazon, or if you have a Kindle or a Kindle app, you can get it for $7.99. So I did look on Book Depository, and then they don't have it. So, because usually when I order books online, I do have a Kindle, so I'll either get like an ebook version or mass market paperback if I can't find it at my local bookstore. But also I like to go Book Depository if I'm looking for something newer, but they usually honestly don't have older books unless it was something like crazy popular, and they don't have it. So those are a couple places that you can purchase the book if you are interested. So like I said, that's just something that whenever I do my announcements, kind of at the end, I will go ahead and suggest some places, especially cheap and inexpensive places. If you don't have it at your local library, you want to try to obtain it. As someone, like I said, who often goes hunting for older books, and most of my collection of books is used books, like to pass that knowledge on kind of where I obtain things or how I go about obtaining things. So, yeah, that is kind of my announcement for this. Like I said, I'll be starting this in September as the first one, kind of talking about getting it started. So your next video for Realms Reads will be my kind of wrap-up analysis review thoughts on this, and also talking about the next year block as well. I don't know, since this is only one book, if I will make those separate videos. Definitely in the future, since each year block will be multiple books, I will be making them separate videos. So yeah, but since I'm starting this in September, I'm gonna go ahead and say that my goal to finish it is by that end of that month, because there are other books that I really, really want to read coming up, that I've kind of already planned on reading in September. So I already have other stuff planned, so I'm not gonna try to squeeze too many into September. Plus, I will likely be moving then. I'm going to be moving soon. I don't know when, but it's hopefully gonna be before October. So I just don't have a specific date yet. So, kind of depending on where we are in the moving process, will also affect how long, kind of where I'm doing with these. Well, thanks for watching, anybody who's watching, and if you want to read this in September with me, once again, it is Darkwalker on Moonshae by Douglas Niles, and as you heard me say, you can get it a couple places pretty cheap if you want to pick it up, or check your local library. They might have it, and I look forward to sharing my thoughts on these books. Comment, let's see, what do I want people to comment? Comment below if you have read any of the books in the Forgotten Realms series, what book or series you really enjoyed, and kind of hope for me to see, hope to see me include in this project. I am going to actually include a link in the description box of just like a view only link to my Google Doc where I listed all of the books in the year block, so you can kind of see the titles and what realm year they occur in. So if you kind of want to follow along or look to see if I'm including your favorite book, you can do so. Have a great night!